Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much. Good to see you. I'm Anthony. I'm the CEO of Encode Club. In general, I'm going to talk to you about ideation here and kind of give you a few ideas, a few ways of thinking, a few ways to kind of formulate ideas and general heuristics, and try and tell you to kind of err away from the bad stuff and stick to the good stuff. I actually can see chat now, which is great. Cool. So I want to start with a very basic question, which is for you to imagine always in a hackathon, the kind of best way to start is actually imagining what a crypto future looks like. Because this is the best way to kind of build stuff that is exciting, is big vision, could go on to achieve something fantastic. And I'm actually going to preface this by saying that the hackathon is the most leveraged bet you can make, being a technical or even non-technical person. And the amount of funding, the amount of prizes, the amount of attention that gets paid to hackathons, because there is so much excitement, innovation, and therefore capital around blockchain. It means that if you do go on to build something good, the opportunities are really significant. So you might be thinking, why the hell is he putting a question like this as the first slide? Well, it's because you really could become a founder off the back of this hackathon, or any hackathon really. You really could do something that quote unquote changes the world. So you should actually start from first principles of like, okay, well, I could build something in this hackathon that is a massive part of the industry, or the crypto ecosystem. So do imagine what a crypto society looks like. And broadly, when I think of what a crypto society looks like, it's based on a few kind of fundamental premises. Which are these, which is things are decentralized. I'm not proclaiming everything should be decentralized. You are self-sovereign. The individual has, in some cases, in the particular case of crypto, custody of their own assets, is a person that cannot be excluded from a system, which is permissionlessness, and things are open. And of course, we always, when we're thinking about this, about crypto, we start with money as the first primitive, and digital money, and money being built in to your experience of the web and the digital experience. And then on top of this, building software that has incentive designs built in, and that broadly, no one has majority control over, or significant control, and can exclude people. And so when you start with this, you can start building completely different, some of these principles, we can start building completely different concepts, protocols, and specifically, because I'm focused on specifics, companies and cool projects. But let's take a step back, and I promise this will not be as esoteric as it is right now. In general, you should kind of abide by this simple principle when you're kind of building something. The protocols like Filecoin should ideally be invisible to the end user. So particularly something like decentralized storage, it's easy for it to be invisible. That is a layer that allows you to do blockchainy things. But in terms of the core application, you should never see what's actually going on, really. You should never really see that something's happening on the blockchain. It should just be useful in and of itself. And what we kind of want to, though, avoid is, I think, these problems of crypto for the real world. And what I want you to kind of shy away from is trying to solve real world problems instead of trying to solve crypto world problems. Because A, it's a lot easier to solve crypto world problems. I'm going to go into exactly why. And B, it's just more exciting. And things will not look like they do now in the real world in 5 to 10 years' time. So, and specifically, there are problems and I'm assuming everyone here knows a little bit about crypto. If you're going to build a project or application that's focused, I don't know, fixing shipping, or like, I don't know, linked groceries, or something that seems very consumer, seems very, very like all the other kind of cool startups are doing in the non-crypto sphere. But crypto, you have some immediate problems if you're going to try and do crypto for the real world. One is custody. In crypto, we expect you to custodize your own assets. Maybe this will change in the future. Maybe we'll delegate this. But for now, you typically have a hardware wallet and your private key. And if you lose access to that, you lose your money. It's not like a bank account where you can call someone, verify that you are you, and get access. If you lose that kind of those lines, numbers, and digits, you don't get access to your funds. And this is obviously a very hard thing. It's a reason your grandmother doesn't use crypto. So this is obviously an immediate reason why it's hard. Every user pretty much has to self-custodize. And so it's hard to build stuff. The second factor is onboarding for this reason. Like it takes ages. It takes like if I was trying to onboard a normal person who didn't know anything about crypto, it's going to take me at least an hour and probably many hours for them to get a comfort level to engage. So you've already got a problem in terms of user base of custody onboarding if you're trying to aim stuff at people that aren't already crypto native. Third is fiat gateways. It is just expensive and time consuming to kind of move money from crypto to fiat and fiat to crypto, mainly because of fears about KYC and AML, making sure that people aren't money laundering. So this is another reason why it's kind of best to stay within a crypto sphere, just using cryptocurrencies. Doing stuff with cryptocurrencies and doing stuff in tokens without trying to go into fiat. And in general, we have regulatory. Things aren't so regulatorily smooth that we can integrate crypto and tokens into everything we kind of do. So for all these reasons, it's immediately the case that you're going to run into problems if you start with the principle that I'm going to build an NFT thing that's focused completely on the real world and the real world user, because your user base is already limited and you make things hard. So what you want to start you off with the assumption of is building something for a crypto user base, crypto things for crypto people. And all these areas like law, supply chains, to a lesser extent finance, they're not things that I want you to kind of focus on this hackathon particularly to do well. Even government and governance, unless it's crypto governance, it's kind of hard to like a decentralized voting system, kind of at least designed for real world people, kind of doesn't work right now for all the reasons I said, custody, and yeah, etc. Identity is cool. We'll come on to that. Data perhaps is cool, and obviously with file storage, decentralized file storage, like you're storing data, so you can do some cool stuff around that. But this hackathon is about NFTs, so we're going to talk specifically about that. I'll come on to some of this stuff about this in a moment, but let's go straight to NFTs. So the purpose of this hackathon, if I go back and I go to our challenges page, the purpose of this hackathon is broadly to answer one of the challenges. And we've got many challenges here. So we have the beginner challenges, which are just to kind of get you started. I know lots of people are already submitting. There is still some money available in that prize pool. So please do keep doing stuff. This is just to give you some basic skills on the back of the education series. And I'm sure George will drop a link to the education series. This is just to give you a few basic skills and some basic prizes. But the real kind of challenges are these. So there's the bridging challenge, which is build a project that combines decentralized storage with smart contract networks like Chainlink, Polygon, Near, which is basically do anything with decentralized storage. So although this is a NFT hackathon, you could just build anything. And then the Unleashed challenge is build a project that utilizes IPFS and Filecoin and that innovates upon existing NFT use cases. And we're going into that now. And games, connecting game NFTs to online assets, identity NFTs, innovations on fractionalisation, anything else cool. So you've got a pretty broad kind of spectrum of things to do. Now, broadly, I hope all of you know what an NFT is, but broadly it means specifically it means a non-fungible token. And fungibility is this odd word, not non-fungible, funge. And what this means is if something were, let's take the counterexample, fungible, a pound coin is fungible. So I can exchange £1 coin for another, and they do the same thing. They are a copy. They are an exact copy of one another. What matters is not the kind of the individual asset itself, but the general qualities of it. Paper is fungible. Like every piece of paper is exactly the same. You can replace one piece of paper for another. An oxygen molecule is fungible. You can replace one for the other quite easily without changing anything. But things like a person is non-fungible. I can't just replace myself directly with something else. Like there are not direct copies of me. It's something that is unique. A piece of art tends to be, this is actually a fantastic example. So the Mona Lisa is non-fungible. There's only one Mona Lisa. But there are many, if you were to produce a picture that is a copy of Mona Lisa and mass produce that, those copies are fungible. You can replace one copy exactly with another. But the Mona Lisa, the original itself, is non-fungible. There is only one original. Now, I don't think NFT as a phrase is a particularly good one. Like, not many people understand the concept of fungibility. It's not like obvious. Money is obviously fungible, whereas unique things like art are non-fungible. The best way to think of it is a unique versus a unique asset versus an asset that you can replace with another one. Okay, so continuing on. What does this mean then? Well, in the token part of a non-fungible token just means we are expressing it as we're expressing this non-fungible thing as a digital asset, or it is a digital asset. It exists on a chain, effectively. Specifically, not many people understand that what actually exists on the chain is a record of ownership rather than the asset itself. For instance, if I have an NFT of a copy of an artwork, a copy of the Mona Lisa, let's say an NFT of the Mona Lisa. We create a digital copy, a complete unique digital copy of the Mona Lisa. What am I actually storing there is the fact, not the fact that the Mona Lisa is on chain. It's clearly not, it's a digital file, but that I am the owner of this digital token representation of it. If you were actually to try and tokenize the ownership, you would tokenize both the Mona Lisa itself and literally a contract saying I own this, or the person who owns the digital asset owns the actual asset. It's just a small caveat to know here that typically when you buy an NFT, you don't own the underlying image. You own the digital token representation of it, which is quite ironic if you think about it. Yeah. Anyway, so what is an NFT? A non-fungible token. And typically we're looking at artwork here broadly as the kind of concept is art tends to be non-fungible. And although NFTs could be music, they could be videos, they could take any form, they could be identity. Your Ethereum address is also a non-fungible token, effectively. Oh, it's not a token, it's a non-fungible asset. All of these things could be, but a good way to look at it is first is art. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to look at some cool projects in the NFT space and just the artwork stuff. So there is no innovation here except someone has done a cool bit of artwork and put it on chain, and you are buying the digital representation of that artwork, but actually not the art itself. George will answer Pavel's question on how do you submit stuff. There's a submission page. But if I go to Opensea, so Opensea is the most popular place that people buy and sell NFTs. It's a private company, there is no token, quite famously. And if I go to explore, you can see when this loads, lots of different assets, lots of different things. We see a price, this is measured in Ethereum. And in general, lots of cool stuff. And these are all NFTs. And so you don't, let's say I want to buy this NFT, I would not be buying the underlying image, I would simply be buying a digital representation of it. And specifically, what I now have is the ownership of that. The NFT itself is the ownership of that digital thing, not the underlying thing itself. Yes, unless you've otherwise put a representation between, put a legal link between the physical asset or the physical file and the digital representation of it. But you see lots of different things, and they're all non-fungible. They're all different. Obviously, I could have lots of versions of these, but then they would be fungible. One reason why you could have two things that look exactly the same, but they're still non-fungible, would be when they were produced. So obviously in crypto, so what I can do, so let's take this pixel giraffe, which is going to load very slowly, forgive me. My laptop is not the fastest. But hopefully, if I've done this right, I should be able to see it on Etherscan. What is... that is the contract address. Okay, I'll find later. But this is an asset I can see on chain, and I can see when it's created. And not only does the unique image itself make it non-fungible, but when it was created and its ownership history itself makes it non-fungible. An example of which is if we go to Sorare, which is a very big football project, clearly you get multiple versions of different footballers. But what matters is the version history of them, and obviously the unique characteristic of the card, but also when they were printed, who has owned it before, makes it a non-fungible token. Just something to be bear in mind. The cool thing here with scarcity is itself a quality, and I think with art that's obviously the case, but that should be beared in mind. So art is the obvious thing we're looking at here, and with your NFTs designs, or if you are just going to produce NFTs, one way to succeed in this hackathon would be to produce a series of just really cool looking NFTs. Simple as. One other thing you should be thinking about is tooling. So how we want to see cool things for creating NFTs, maybe artistic generators, maybe marketplaces, maybe cool ways to trade NFTs, maybe cool ways to integrate NFTs into other bits of crypto or other ways of everyday life. We don't just want to see kind of show your artistic skills. It's one possible option is to show your artistic skills and build NFTs, but another and arguably more important one is to develop the infrastructure around this. So why is my tooling thing gone? There we go. So tooling is something we very much want to see. It is not just the case that your NFT has to be just something that looks pretty. It can be used for some specific purpose. I suggest if you are, again, you can either in this hackathon build a set of NFTs, but the cool thing would be to build a set of NFTs that do something. And then we'll talk about some obvious ways you can kind of do this. But one is NFTs as identity. So I already mentioned before that your Ethereum address is effectively your best NFT token because it contains your kind of unique financial history and kind of starts to build a personal profile around you. So identity and creating digital identities around NFTs. And one thing cool, it's not quite this, but one thing it's cool if you notice that a lot of people use their NFTs as their profile pictures. So they start becoming one with their profile pictures. And I think that's particularly kind of cool to see. The second thing is obviously gaming. This is like an obvious thing, and if people want to explore this, that would be absolutely fantastic. But in-game assets being provably yours, which NFTs allow, is obviously a big area, with the caveat that I think that it should be a game. The game should always come first, and the game itself probably should be based around crypto principles, but not in a way that is the game is then based on speculation. The assets should be a small part, I think, of the game, not a fundamental part of the game. I'm just going to take a second now to get some water because I'm particularly parched. But the assets themselves in the game, for instance, I don't know how many of you play FIFA. I'm a big football fan and I like FIFA. And in FIFA, you have these cards that are, you can have a game called FIFA Ultimate Team where the cards are themselves players that you can use. And this is an economy where you trade some fake currency, and it actually looks like crypto in many respects. The thing they don't allow, which would ruin the game, is for you to actually be able to directly purchase players, and there to be a direct link between fiat and purchasing players. There's a few layers of abstraction. You can buy coins, but you can't buy players themselves. And this stops people kind of having games stops people just buying their way completely to success. They want it to be a fairly inefficient process between paying money and getting success. And it broadly is right now to some extent. So if you're going to build a game or build anything around a game, always think, okay, how does the crypto incentives, NFT is usually tradable. It's a token. It's very easy to make it tradable. We've seen this in crypto. How would this mess up the game if this were to be highly speculated? Is a very good way to be. Is a very good thing to think about. But NFTs and gaming are an obvious thing. All assets, so characters, swords, footballs, anything. You could make NFT, and you could have the only thing as well to think about is, do you want people to be able to take the assets out of the game, or do you want them to use just for the game? And how quickly does the game regenerate? Is it just a game that's always in its current state? Does a new one come out every year? These are all little things to be thought about, particularly if you're building big kind of general games. I'm going to share some cool games that we've seen out of Encode that you can kind of take example of. Fusium is an Encode spin out we're particularly happy about. Where's that gone? Come back. And if you want to see, that is a very cool game. Go and have a play around with it. Lots of cool stuff there to have a think about. Yeah, looking very good. Another cool one is, it's not launched yet, but let's find it. OpenEra is, I should not just Google OpenEra. Is a RPG game on Solana. It's also out of Encode, just something to look at if you want inspiration. But the kind of cool stuff that you can do, and note in this hackathon, you can use other chains that integrate with Filecoin, for instance. I'm going to try not to show you my Twitter DMs. Okay, that's not good. 1 second. There we go. Other cool ones to look at. Xmons. So this is NFT monsters generated by generative adversarial networks. Very cool kind of stuff. And it's a project that won an Encode Hackathon and now has a live token and is doing extremely well. And if you do get the artwork right, even without VC funding, you could have NFTs that are broadly worked. Let's see, price low to high. This concept of the floor price. Are you there? Who's that?
It's George. Just saying they're worth a lot of money.
They are. You could have something that is worth, like, that's 28 ether. That's 28 times what, 4,000. That's like a lot of money. It's well over 100K. Note there's a concept called the floor price. Some of you heard of it. It's just typically because there is not much liquidity for NFTs, because people like them, they don't want to sell them. There's not many of them. We typically, to get an a relative comparison of price, we look at the floor price, which is the price of the lowest one. This is what the floor price is. So in this case, the floor price, the price I'm using just to get a gauge of like what the price of these things are, is 29 ether. A good comparison is if we look at something called CryptoPunks. These are very famous NFTs. I think they've released quite a lot more CryptoPunks these days. But yeah, the minimum price is 45 ether. Pretty good. Oh, maybe not actually. Some of the originals, it's very, very high. Yeah, this is expensive. So if you were to create a popular series, that could be very, very valuable, very, very valuable, very, very, very valuable. Next, moving on. There is cool stuff you can do around governance. And again, this is a byproduct of identity. So identity in crypto is important because if you're going to trust actors, you need to know who they are. And there's various ways to do identity. There is obviously, you want it in some decentralized manner. You can have things like ENS names. They're basically like georgebenton.eth, and that is your name associated with the wallet, and that is a tradable asset. That's an NFT. And then if you know this is George and you verified it, maybe you got him to put it on his Twitter or something, you can trust George as an actor and maybe give him some responsibility in terms of governance. The other thing is that you could give an NFT to people depending on their different role in the community. So you could say that all ambassadors get a certain NFT, and that gives you certain rights on Discord. There's a popular platform called Collab Land. Maybe George, you can drop the link in, where it gives you different access depending on what tokens you hold. So that's kind of a cool thing to do. So you can use NFTs to start building. Again, just this idea, don't think of it in terms of every NFT has to be artwork. This is a unique token that does a unique thing that's only kind of linked to you. That is basically a proxy for identity in crypto, and you can start doing some cool things. Identity is the bedrock of doing cool stuff around governance, particularly of open protocols, DAOs, etc. So I want to look at some cool problems I'd like you guys to solve if you can, and things I'll be looking out for the end of judging to see kind of see what. One thing I haven't added here is and we can go back a few slides now, is integrating DeFi with NFTs. So building some kind of infrastructure like lending, borrowing, loaning, like building kind of money products around NFTs, using NFTs as collateral. And this is broadly, we come under the title of DeFi. And lots of people have tried to do lending in NFTs before and build products out of NFTs and use NFTs as money. If we know they have some sort of value, we can then extract that to use it for other purposes. Maybe we could stake NFTs for other things. Broadly, if you want to do anything around NFTs and DeFi, that would be really bloody cool. But to give you some cool ideas of things to solve, so Opensea Competitors. So actually, I'm going to give you the unadulterated view and the adulterated view. So the unadulterated view is that actually a lot of the community are annoyed there's no token to Opensea, and so they want something more community run and open source. And so Opensea looks like it's going to be a private company. It looks like it's going to do a IPO. A lot of the community are unhappy about this, given the relative power Opensea has over the NFT market. It's the biggest marketplace by miles. And so if you do want to build an Opensea competitor, and I would suggest not just carbon copying it, but adding different features, particularly around kind of trading and swapping, etc. This would be really, really cool to see. The second thing is fractionalization of NFTs. So if you know an NFT has a value or something, right now it's kind of annoying that if I want to buy an NFT, like I have to buy the whole one-off. Maybe I want to have, I don't own the NFT, but I want access. I want to make a bet on it increasing in price. So somehow ways to do fractionalization and maybe even extract some of the usage of that NFT would be really, really cool. Because obviously, also the individual components of a NFT, you have to decide whether they're going to be fungible or non-fungible. I could easily say, look, if you break the Mona Lisa up into 100 pieces, that's 100 unique pieces. Or I could say, I'm not breaking the Mona Lisa up, I'm kind of dividing the economic rights to the Mona Lisa. And in that case, they're very fungible. Like one right that is worth 0.1 is worth the same as another right that's worth 0.1. So there's some cool stuff to be done around fractionalization, definitely. Trading. So let's say I own a CryptoPunk and that it doesn't look like me and it costs me an arm and a leg. There's lots of kind of people looking to buy and sell CryptoPunks, or maybe mainly buy, but like there's not a lot of liquidity. It's like you're not certain if I sold this one that I'm going to get the one I want tomorrow. So some better ways to do swaps, particularly between things that broadly have the same value. This would be very cool. And there's lots of kind of cool stuff around floor sweeping that could be done. So that would be something else I'd like to see. And also, like, I want to make the general caveat that kind of practically nothing is built yet. Like, there's a lot of cool NFT stuff happening, but the majority of the innovation has just been around like cool bits of art. Like, and you could argue that is overvalued in that sense, but practically nothing is built. So, like, go wild and like. Just building a good version of something that already exists is already kind of cool and good enough. And to refer back to the challenges, like, what have we got? Like, this is completely open. Build a project that uses decentralized storage. It doesn't actually have to be an NFT, but particularly on this one, like there's so much you can do with it. Just build anything involving NFTs, and the prizes are absolutely fantastic. So I very much encourage you to do that. But I want to give you some kind of general rules and principles for doing a hackathon. First thing is kind of decide your skill level, and if you're unsure what your skill level is or how, a lot of this I think is easier than you'd expect if you put the time in, but decide your skill level. Like, do you want to just do the easy challenges and nothing more? Do you want to really go for building a big, like a potential startup? Do you just want to build a quick project to get maybe a small prize? Do you want to just learn about centralized storage? This is the most important thing. And of course, what comes hand in hand with that is picking your aim as well. So these two things, and if you're unsure on either, please do a call. George put Omji's Calendly into the chat. I'm sure he's going to re-put it again now. These are kind of the two first things to decide, and also kind of how much time do you have broadly. It is an 8-week hackathon. We're a couple of weeks into it now, and you have to submit by the end of, when are we submitting, George? We're submitting by the end of end of November. It's kind of ages. But like decide, are you doing weekends? Are you kind of putting all your time into this? Are you just doing like evenings? Are you going to wait till the last weekend and bash something out? That will also depend on what you kind of build and the sophistication of it. As I said before, hackathons are the most leveraged bet you can make in crypto, especially with a developer. So much prize money, so many people looking to hire, so much social capital, so much community, and like the funding for potential startups is huge. So please forgive my voice. It's completely collapsed on me during this call. So the product, these three will kind of dictate where you want to go, and also your kind of long-term ambitions. So I really think if you're doing this hackathon, skills is the first thing, but like have an aim. Like really, like you could have a great job in crypto after this event. Yeah, you could easily have a great job in crypto, or have or get funded for a startup or a grant or something. And remember, we do have the Encode Filecoin Accelerator happening in the new year after this event. So that's something to be borne in mind as well. Probably that's the end of what I wanted to say. You have an unbelievable opportunity. This is a brilliant hackathon, if I do say so myself, because you have the best partner in the world here, really, in Filecoin. So I look forward to kind of seeing what you build. And I final imploring of you to use the support from the Encode team that's available. Of course, Filecoin as well, but in terms of the ideation and pushing towards a certain thing, or maybe helping you get a team or helping your team improve faster, come and talk to us. Come and talk to us on Discord, organize a call. Trust me, we've had so many startups and just people spin out of Encode. We've done this thousands of times now across thousands of different people. So we're good at it. Come and help us and find us. And the amount of support you have available is quite unlimited. So I'm going to stop there and take any questions you may have. My laptop's absolutely on fire, but I'm going to try and answer the questions that come in now. We'll start with Sasha, who says they have to go soon. If you don't have ability technically, I have a clear idea I want to produce. How do I find a team of technologists? Come and talk to George or Opensea. George will share his Discord username now. We'll happily help connect you with the team so you can share your skills. And if you're an artist, oh boy, you're in for a good time. It's actually very easy to produce NFTs without any kind of technical knowledge needed. We do have some tutorials on that. So please do either join a team or just, again, if you've just got some cool art or a cool series of NFTs you'd like to produce, I'd love to see that and probably buy them off you. Excellent. Discord server George has put in chat. My voice is beautiful. Thank you, Ryan. I grew it myself. What's the links? Code submissions. Canvas Arts NFT, simple example. One of the key features of the access. Yeah. So this goes back to identity, and I didn't talk about access control, but access control is obvious. So one of the key features. Yeah. So you could this is kind of goes to the principle of collab land of giving people access based on what NFT they have, which is broadly access based on identity. Yeah, I think you do some very cool things around that. Yeah. Keep going through. Zcash, I would actually love to if you put in chat how your thing's going to work and specifically how it will integrate Filecoin. To NFT storage, I see. That's very, very cool. We keep going. Have an idea, but what if not technical work, you find technical co-founders? So yes, the same thing. If you ping George on Discord, we'll help you get a team. That's absolutely fine. Can an NFT itself be copied or stolen? So remember, I really want to get onto Etherscan. Give me a second. I'm going to go onto Etherscan. So remember, with an NFT, I think the way to think about it is not the asset itself is realistically just a JPEG, like of an NFT, of which you don't actually own the JPEG. It's hosted on, like you can't like download it and it's yours and you can take it off the server. Let me see. What you're paying for realistically is that you own this digital representation of an asset, and here has been the history of the kind of representations of the assets. And yeah, here's been the history of the representation of the assets, and I am this owner, and I can can prove that I'm the owner. So in that sense, like you can copy one, but it doesn't mean anything. It's just like you can't cheat the blockchain. So you could steal one, like I could steal any of your funds. But yeah, it's in the case you can't. Again, it's a blockchain. You can't unless you do a 51% attack. You're not going to change the block history. So you can't change who owns something. Yeah. Most examples where Ethereum is the case use another change. Yes, it is. So really good point, John. You can use any project that uses Filecoin IPFS, but with other networks. If there is a bridge, or obviously in the case of near Polygon, etc., you can do it anyway. So yes, 100%. And if you want to build if someone built a bridge between, I don't know, Algorand and Filecoin, no, I think I'd give you the top prize now. Okay, how does artblocks.io work? Oh, by the way, I wasn't sharing my screen as I was talking there. Give me a second. Just on the bridging challenge. If you built a bridge, by the way, I'd be so happy. But yeah, artblocks.io. Give me a second.
So I think Artblocks is more a collection of generative artwork, which is very cool. They all go for lots and lots of money. But yeah, I think they kind of invite artists to do generative artwork and release them under the kind of Artblocks banner. So it's an interesting concept. Like for example, the Squiggles ones are very simple, but still pretty fun, and they go for like tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
By
the way, a very famous game just shows Axie Infinity. Funny thing is the game sucks. This is like the irony of all of it. Like the game actually sucks. It's just it's got a kind of a lot of community behind it. One of the things you have in Axie Infinity is this idea of scholars, where you outsource the running of your game to someone else to kind of mine and get the rewards, while you sit there and kind of just someone else gets the rewards and you share some of the winnings with them. So that's an interesting one, kind of concept. Nice, cool, Swazi website as well. In general, games and crypto suck, honestly. There's a very famous, the kind of first NFT that was quite famous was this idea of crypto kitties. It's just a kitty, and you would breed them, and they're kind of like Tamagotchis, if you remember Tamagotchis. And yeah, they suck. Most stuff sucks. Like we're waiting for amazing games, and I think honestly, the best games will be existing games where you kind of integrate small bits of crypto, at least for now, until someone actually nails proper incentive design. Because the problem with crypto in general is that I can believe on an economic level, like we all know a little bit of game theory here. I can believe that these systems were supposed to work when the systems properly work. When you add a shit ton of speculation onto a crypto economy or a crypto network, it puts incentives out of whack. It's very simple. How can you have a great game when the assets themselves are like 1,000 times more expensive than you expected, or like the cost to enter is like thousands of pounds, which things like Sorara and Axie Infinity they are now. So if you want to build a game, I'd love to see a game. Just think about incentive design very well. And the game itself doesn't have to be on the blockchain. Like the assets should just be on the blockchain. The game itself could be a simple offline game. So that's something to be remembered as well. So yeah, I'd have Minecraft on the blockchain. You do extremely well. That's a very good one. Anything else, guys? In general, please organize one-to-one calls. I can believe NFTs will be the key to the metaverse. But I mean, I don't know how many of you have tried an Oculus VR. Let me share. Like if I would 100% just you don't own one and you can afford one, buy one right now. Oculus Quest 2, and you kind of do the quest, like you kind of realize that this is the future. You can see how the metaverse it's so, the product is so good now. It's so absorbing and engrossing that it's just fantastic. And you can really see how if this was linked to crypto, cool stuff is going to happen. So yeah. Excellent. Any other questions, guys? Good. Well, thank you very much for your time. I think I've done my best to keep things concise and to the point. This will go up on YouTube and Medium tomorrow. In the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to contact George or Omji or any of the team. or me, but I'm actually the least useful person to talk to because I leave the day-to-day to George and Omji and the team. If you do want to talk to me, you can also reach me on Discord as well. I'm right at the top right as the admin. So in the meantime, thank you very much for coming. George, what's the next event? On Tuesday, 26th. So in 12 days time, NFT Spotlight. So what we'd like to do is try and in the meantime book in one-on-ones with Omji. Do you want to share for the last time that calendar, George? Yeah, it's clearing too many times now. But please book in one-on-one calls because we want to talk to you, we want to get to know you, we want to help you and help you do very well in this hackathon. Cool. George, anything I've missed?
No, I think that's everything. Yeah, I guess we're now pretty much into the building phase. So get building. If you don't have an idea yet, book a call with Omji. If you have an idea yet, book a call with Omji, and she can help advise on how you can kind of build that out and have the most success in the hackathon. But yeah, best of luck to everyone, really.
All good. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, and we'll see you all soon.